Tell me a little bit about you first. Who are you? Where do you live? How did you get involved in this?
Okay, so I'm glad I'm sitting down and you are, because it's a long story. But basically, I started my career in tourism 26 years ago. I started a company called Alpha Travel, and that's top-end inbound tour operating. Because of the fact that one of the hats I happen to wear is the hat of being the head of mission of Costa Rica in South Africa, it meant that I have always been able to move very freely at top level in the embassies, foreign embassies in South Africa. And through that, my first clients were presidents, kings, queens, you name it. And I've always stuck with that tiny niche that is top. The onset of COVID on the tourism industry was obviously overnight, end of income. I live in Johannesburg, 3 daughters, and recently divorced after 30 years of marriage. So that in itself is quite a new status quo. And when you're having to support yourself, the timing couldn't really have been any worse at all. But I'm very pragmatic, and I stepped back and I thought, okay, what does the hard truth look like? And the hard truth was that I don't foresee myself making a cent this year. So what do I do? Okay, the first thing I can do is cut costs. And that was actually quite an empowering thing to do. It's amazing how quickly you realize that many of us have so much more than we need. I don't need to drive the car that I currently drive, and so I'm going to sell it and get myself a smaller one that still has 4 wheels and a steering wheel, and I have no qualms about that. And it actually feels quite empowering to at least be able to do something about changing the status quo. Then one of the other things I do for fun is I do ultra-distance races around the world in very bizarre places like Antarctica, Iceland, Sahara Desert in Egypt, and many others. So I love walking. And I literally did wake up one morning. It really was a case of waking up one morning and thinking, you know what? I keep getting these emails from lodges begging for help for their communities. Anyone who's in tourism was receiving those emails, and we were all made aware of the fact that it's the communities who aren't seen. People think, oh, tourism, the impact, the tour operators, the hotel owners, the lodges, but the trickle down to these communities who their very existence, the meals on the table, are reliant on the help they get from the tourism industry. And the other thing that I was very aware of was that it was inappropriate for me to communicate with my client base in any normal way. I'm not one of these people who thinks it's appropriate to send out emails to clients and say, let's plan your next holiday. Because I think it's an assumption to believe that their lives haven't been impacted and that they might be in a devastating situation. And the last thing that they want is some tour operator in Johannesburg trying to sell them a safari. It just didn't seem appropriate. So you put those things together. I can't work. I can't do anything to raise income. I can physically make a difference to help communities. And I can also use the opportunity to communicate in a COVID-appropriate way and showcase my country to my client base in an appropriate way. And you put those together, and I thought, why don't I just go walking through the Big 5 area of South Africa? I bet I could pull that off in the middle of lockdown. I mean, we were lockdown 4 then. But I am rather audacious. I immediately thought of somebody who would be a perfect partner to do it with me. Not anyone I knew particularly well, but somebody who had been involved in a race that I was involved in last year with Laureus. And he's a youngster, and he's a free spirit. He's passionate about the bush and wildlife and the environment. He is a guide. Picked up the phone and I said, hey, Granty, how do you feel about joining me for 3 weeks in the bush and other parts of South Africa to raise money for these communities? I hadn't even finished the sentence and he said, I'm in. So that was great. I then went directly to the Minister of Tourism I wrote to her. I didn't know her at all. I wrote to her and I said, listen, this is me. This is what I want to do. I would really appreciate at least just the fundamental support of the Ministry of Tourism, which I got. And not only that, she also agreed to make us a Mandela Month initiative, because it was the month of July. And they helped us to kind of identify, activities that we could do on Mandela Day. And then it was a case of contacting the lodges. They were all in lockdown, mothballed, in fact, and to say to them, please, could you open your doors for a night for us to come through, meet your communities that you are supporting, see what their plight is, and add them to the list of beneficiaries that we want to support. And every single one of them said yes. I mean, that was remarkable. Here we are in lockdown, and they actually opened their doors, and we stayed at some of the most iconic lodges in the country. And we also did the panorama route, which is magnificent. And so many South Africans don't even know how magnificent that Blyde River Canyon is, and the Mac Falls. I mean, just amazing. And in a nutshell, that's the story.
Wow, that's incredible. You must be very fit now.
Yeah, I think I've got muscle memory sort of fitness, but yeah, I suppose I'm fit, yeah.
So can you give me a couple of examples, or perhaps there's one example that stands out to you that kind of encapsulates the reason why you did this at all? One of those communities, or a story about one of the women specifically that you met along the way that resonates with you and captures what this whole Warrior 500 initiative is all about?
Yeah, there definitely was a game-changing moment. I still get teary every time I think about it, and it was really an opportunity for me to look in the mirror in a way that was a bit too honest to feel comfortable with. And it was a youngster who comes from a bushbuck ridge, which really is one of the most impoverished areas in the greater Kruger. And he had come to Johannesburg to try and better his life. And he got a couple of, relatively decent jobs. But he just wanted to go back home. And he was so aware of the difference between the haves and the have-nots, and how his family and his community had absolutely nothing. And he thought, at least what I've learned here in the city, I can take back and try and help. And he went and got from the government a parcel of land for 2,000 Rand, one of these sort of areas, rural areas that they sort of hand out. And he got himself a couple of chickens. And then he sold a few eggs. And this went on until he now has 87 chickens. And he's selling enough chickens and eggs to actually have a really nice little business going. He went on to buy another plot of land that cost him another 2,000 Rand. And now he's planting vegetables on there. And he's just gone to his third plot, which he now wants to consolidate. And he's even starting to be able to employ people. And he's starting to empower people, which is his vision. And he said, but this is what I still need to do. So this is my third plot, and I want to build this, and I need to get a borehole so that I can do this kind of irrigation system. And he's now really growing with his plan and his business. And he said, but the big stumbling block is electricity. Until I get electricity, I can't get to the next level. And he said, Eskom has to run lines specifically to get it here. And I said, oh, wow, that's a big thing. So what is that going to take? He said, it's going to take 5,000 Rand. And I just stopped in my tracks and I thought, 5,000 Rand is a game changer for him. And how many of the people that I deal with in business, and I'm afraid I have to include myself, are capable of spending that in a handbag, on a pair of shoes, without thinking twice about it? And yet this was a game changer. And that was where I realized I don't need the car. I don't need to have there's so much excess. And I want to appeal to people like me who have way more than they need or deserve, quite frankly, and know how much of a massive difference it can make to these people's lives. You don't need to think, oh, well, unless you get to the 5 million, you're not going to make a massive change. No, if every single one of us has that change, that paradigm shift, we can make a massive difference. And I think it's a responsibility. I honestly think anyone in the travel industry has a responsibility to these people, because there has to be a reset button post-COVID. This tourism of people coming, taking pictures, seeing the big five, ticking off the box and going without realizing that actually the money that they spent is vital to these people. And they need to realize that they've made a difference. But if you don't convey that message, the involvement of the communities, it's kind of like they're in the dark there. They get the benefit, but they aren't brought in to actively be part of our tourism.
You're touching on it now, but let's talk about the importance of tourism to those communities, to the bushbuck ridges of the world. Why is tourism more than rich people going and staying at a game lodge? And why does it deserve to be saved?
Well, firstly, these people come from these areas, and this is land that they need to be proud of. And the only way you can make them proud of it and understand the value of it, because our big five areas, let's talk about the Sabi Sands, the Kruger, these areas are such valuable assets to South Africa, but they can't just be assets at the top. They've got to be assets to the people who are in this area, because they're the ones who actually the custodians to protect it. You know, you see how the path of rhino poaching comes through these villages, because if you have someone coming from Mozambique, for example, and sorry to point fingers, to try and find a youngster who's battling to go into the big five area and shoot a rhino for 10,000 Rand or whatever it is, if he sees value in the land, value in what tourism means to his community, and he sees that the community share the benefits of this, he's not going to do that. And this goes, I mean, that's just on one example. This goes on for us to better the offering that we have in tourism. It has to come from the roots and the heart and the soul of South Africans, not from the top down. Got to come from the bottom up. And I think that that's part of the imbalance that has become blatantly obvious in a COVID situation. No one really thought about these communities, excepting for the lodges who were there. People like me in the everyday tour operating business, I'm dealing with international clients, sending them to lodges. I know that those lodges have community projects, but it wasn't a raw, intense awareness that it is for me now. And I think that the South African tourism industry need to take responsibility for our communities, but really from the heart.
So you then decided you were going to raise awareness about these communities, and you embarked on a long, long walk with your friend Grant. Tell me, how has that walk benefited those communities, and how are you hoping it will continue to benefit those communities?
Well, the interesting thing is that when I woke up in the morning with the idea, it was a COVID idea. It was a filler. One of the things that I realized is that it's not a filler that's needed. It has to be sustainable. And these people were already in a very difficult situation prior to COVID. So first thing is an awareness that it can't be a one-off. So Warrior 500 is going to become an annual event. The other thing is that obviously you can't be all things to everyone. So if you're going to raise funds, you're going to have to target a pocket. That's the only way it's going to make any sense. And having been in business for 26 years, I've obviously forged good relations with many lodges, and we all have, the lodges that we tend to support, the most. And they all have very, very important community trusts and campaigns. So it was those lodges that were involved in the actual trek and their community projects. So those were the ones that we went to see, and the funding is coming through Laureus. So it's an official charitable organization, which makes it tax deductible, of course. And it's actually Laureus who will distribute the funds evenly to the different trusts.
Right. Okay. And so you're hoping to do this annually?
Yeah, absolutely. The idea is to make it a 500-kilometer trek, and the shape of the course is going to be the shape of Africa. And we will be auctioning 5-day sections of the route. Some of it will be in the Panorama, some of it will be in the Sabi Sands, the Timbavati, Thorny Bush, etc., etc. And we will auction this internationally. And because it will be such a unique opportunity, we hope that we'll get really high bids for this. And it will continue to be the communities that benefit from this.
What would you say to the tourism industry to inspire them to put a lens like you have, but permanently on, I'm talking about the tour operators, the DMCs, the international customers, to look at how their travel has a ripple effect in those communities? What could you say to them to make sure that they don't just look at it as a piece of paper, and that they actually understand the ripple effect that they're having by traveling to support those communities?
Yeah. You've just said what the message is. So we've identified the message. The message is, you have no idea how important your visit to our country is, to our communities. And the how, well, I think marketing people would probably be better positioned to answer the how. And I would imagine there are many ways of doing it. But I think we've got so much such massive availability of means to show people physically where their money goes. I think that if there's a responsible route that a percentage of what they spend goes to, that they can physically see, that's Maria. I can follow Maria and see what Maria's story is. The guy with the electricity, with 5,000 Rand, knowing that he can get electricity now, that's a story that I can follow, and he will want it to be followed. So I don't think it's going to be rocket science to find a way to show our international visitors and our local tourists that this makes their spend makes a massive difference. Our challenge, of course, is that there have been so many bottomless pits of funding. The word community has unfortunately been used a little bit too shallowly. We have a wonderful opportunity now. I think COVID has given the tourism industry a wonderful opportunity for a reset into bringing our communities into the fold visibly, not on show, definitely not on show, but hands-on, show physically the then and the now and the future.
So as a woman in tourism, you didn't wait for Women's Day to stand up and try and help your fellow sisters in tourism. You decided right at the outset that you were going to be doing something. What could you say to inspire other women in tourism who perhaps are feeling in a place of disempowerment, where they're just actually getting up in the morning is a stretch? What could you say to them to inspire them to take back power and to do something on behalf of the tourism industry?
Well, I think that we are all going to look back on this time of pause and reflection and realize that it was an incredible opportunity for every single one of us if we use it with insight and with compassion and with commitment to change. I just think we've all been so busy making money, just going. This definitely is an opportunity for any woman to look around her and say, what can I do without? How can I help myself get through this period before tourism comes back, as it absolutely will come back? Life will come back to what we've known it to be before. And who knows, maybe it's going to be better. There's no reason for it not to be better. No reason to jump to the conclusion it's going to be worse. But during this period, there are constructive things that we can do, like spend less. We can actually go out and see how we can help others, or just think of ideas how we can help others. It makes you feel so good. It really makes you feel good. And it will help you get up in the morning because you know that today you're going to do something that matters. We have that opportunity, make that choice every single morning when we make up. Am I going to make a difference? Is today important? Am I lucky to be here? Am I of the fortunate ones? Many, many reasons to be positive right now.
If you had a direct line into the corridors of power to the president and the NCCC, what would you say to them on behalf of tourism today?
I would say that the decisions that they're making currently are out of kilter with other decisions. And a simple one is the taxi analogy. There is no ways that you can have a taxi full and a lodge empty. There is no rationale. I would like to be in on that discussion with the president to try and give him the opportunity to convince me that there's any logic in that. But certainly tourism is not where our big risks lie. And we need to open. We need to open cautiously, carefully, but we need to open now. And we need to think about opening international borders really soon, because we need to send out a message to the rest of the world that we are going to be safe very soon. And we can't wait until we are safe to be able to say that.
Last question for you. How do we get involved in Warrior 500? What can we do as a tourism industry to help you help those communities?
Well, any possible platform that will send the message that we desperately need donations to be made. It is so simple. I'm going to our website, warrior500.com. Literally, you press a button, put in credit card details, and it goes straight to the Laureus fund. There's nothing risky about it whatsoever. And I can't say any more than the only way we can help right now is if everybody helps a bit. And it doesn't need to be more than a bit. So, Natalia, whatever platforms you have to be able to shout that out, that's what we desperately need.
Any final words from you before we log off?
Really privileged to be part of I Am Tourism Women's Month. It really means a lot to me as a businesswoman and as a woman. And I would like to challenge all of my fellow women in tourism to please let us make a difference in this month of August by you making a donation, and just, you can put anonymous or you can put your name, but just do hashtag I Am Tourism. And during the month of August, we will know that those donations are from women. So this is my plea to the women of tourism of South Africa. Please go to warrior500.com, make a donation, and hashtag I Am Tourism.